Hello and welcome to the Aquarius full moon forecast for the Aquarius full moon on July 29th at 7:36 a.m. Pacific time. I'm your astrologer, Cawnawyn Mor, and today we are taking a look at this Aquarius chart, seeing what themes arise from it, and hopefully giving you, if you're new to learning how to read the chart, some idea of how I, as an astrologer, go about interpreting a chart upon first glance, because I have not really looked at this chart a whole lot. I know a few things about it, but other than that, it's a discovery process for this video. So let's dive in and take a look. As a quick reminder, I always cast my charts for my videos with an Aries rising, so we're not talking about houses today, not talking about rising sign, just about the planets, their positions, and most importantly, their aspects, their relationships they're making to each other. So we see the chart here, our full moon in Aquarius. If you cast this chart and change the time zone to be your time, I'm located in Pacific time in Seattle, Washington. This will allow you to see this chart, but it will look differently based on your location. And you can also use that to see what the relationship is creating to your own natal chart as well. Taking a look at our full moon. Here's the moon up here at 6 degrees of Aquarius. You can see it's very close to Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius. This red, by the way, in my chart, this means that the planets are in retrograde. So you can see we have a couple retrograde positions and planets in here. Pluto is retrograde in Aquarius. The moon with this black 6 degrees is not. The moon never goes in retrograde because it orbits the earth. So here we have the moon at 6 degrees, making its opposition to the sun in Leo. A sun-moon opposition is always what a full moon will look like in the chart. The sun in Leo at 6 degrees as well. And you can see it's right here conjunct with Jupiter at 6 degrees of Leo. So not only are we dealing with a sun and moon opposition, but we are also holding the energy of this Jupiter opposing Pluto, which no less than two of the biggest god brothers in the sky. Zeus being representative of Jupiter, if you're familiar with Zeus's lore. Pluto being an equivalent of a Hades character, right? These are the two brothers in the sky ruling the land of the living and the land of the dead, and they are facing off of each other. And this full moon, anytime the moon goes over a planet, by the way, it's like activating that planet. And not only that, but the moon being tied to our emotions and our physical body, this is making that archetype a very personal place. So the moon interacting with Pluto and also making an opposition to Jupiter, the moon is like lighting that up like fireworks. And so when we have an aspect that's lit up by the moon, when the moon crosses into that aspect as well, lighting up that relationship, it makes it deeply personal because now the moon is saying, well, what are your feelings? How is your body interacting with it? And we as a collective feel these energies heightened or emphasized with every time the moon goes across. Now, the moon making its own aspect to the sun here, these being the two major luminaries, I always talk about with a full moon, you're going to see it in the outside world reflected that way, affecting you. Perhaps maybe this is a relationship that you are in. Oppositions are typically found in our relationships to the outside world, to another individual, to a group of people potentially. We're going to see that playing out there, but what it's really speaking to is as above, so below, as within, so without. Something going on within your own soul and psyche that is asking to be interrogated or confronted. And opposition is a confrontation. That doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that we are being confronted with an archetypal lesson or story or energy of some kind. And it's up to us to integrate both sides. Is one side wrong? Is one side bad? Well, depending on your personal experience, maybe it is something negative that you are confronting and you're trying to find the lesson in it, the meaning behind it, the path forward. Some form of compromise. Or maybe that thing is very positive, but it could stir up something negative inside of you. Maybe it stirs up something positive inside you, therefore creating a negative reaction in somebody else. All these possibilities are possible. They're all within reach. And none of them is bad or good. It's just a matter of these oppositions give us the opportunity to integrate both lessons of this axis. So what is this axis? We have obviously Aquarius being the key central archetype of this full moon. And we also have Leo, its opposite. So when I think about the Leo and the Aquarius axis, the obvious one that we go to is that Leo being representative of the individual, the soul, the spirit, the heart-centered person who is here to shine, or that place within inside of us that is longing to be seen, to be noticed, something about us that wants to be visible, or maybe doesn't necessarily desire visibility, but it's that thing that is visible about us, that we are recognized for, that we are seen in. I think of Leo as being that authentic place, but it can also take the form of being performative, and it is on a very individual basis. Why? Because when we look at the ruler of Leo, it is the sun. The sun is in its home sign. It's in its rulership. The sun is able to shine bright and do its best in the sign of Leo, where it can give that gift of creativity and joy and vitality and life. And also it can burn. It can burn like a long lasting hearth fire. But what can a hearth fire also do? It can burn us, right? It can be too bright. The spotlight can feel too much. So the sun is very bright in the sign of Leo. That's where it's at home. If we look to the moon being in Aquarius, right? What is Aquarius energy? Well, if the Leo energy is the one, Aquarius energy is the many, the collective, brotherhood, sisterhood, community, groups, organizations. This is a network of sorts. And the moon being there now drawing our attention to our inner desire to be nurtured and secure, being in line with the group, the community, the collective. Also the human body, right? The moon rules our body. Our body is made of mostly water. We know the moon controls the tides. Guess what? It controls our body too. And it's now not only influencing our physical body, but the bodies of collective. So there's collective emotional movement. There's collective physical motivation. I think of this as almost like a hive mind, like that moon can really be influencing a large mass of people. When you see masses of groups moving, almost like bees or birds in the sky, and how they're all coordinated with their movements. That is kind of that energy of the moon. So when I think about the moon in Aquarius, I think of like the mission that a group of people might come together for. Their heart is leading them in this desire for a greater good, for change, and they come together and work as a team, as a group, to enact whatever it is they wish to see in the world. So that moon in Aquarius, if you're born with a moon in Aquarius, you're likely very concerned with, very invested in large collective group efforts, or perhaps it's highlighting groups of people that have been oppressed or forgotten or unseen, because Aquarius is the furthest away from the sun's rulership. So when it's far away like that, the sun's light has a hard time reaching it. And so that's why Aquarius rules over the underdog, the one that's unseen, the outsider, the one who is isolated from the group. It says, no, you're welcome here too. Something I want to mention, really important whenever we look at the signs, right? So we were looking at the Aquarius and the Leo axis. We have to look at the rulers. What are the rulers doing? Because that is telling us the energy of this moon as well. We already know the sun's rulership is in Leo, being highly emphasized and magnetized by this Jupiter, which we'll come back to. But the Aquarius ruler is Saturn, and Saturn just went retrograde on July 26th. Here it is down here. What kind of an aspect is it making? Well, it's wide, but air and fire, so Aquarius being an air sign and Aries being a fire sign, fire and air work well together. They collaborate. They're able to come together and come to agreements, right? Same thing with fire and fire, of course, Leo being a fire sign too. So Saturn is in a harmonious, not exact aspect, but we're pretty close to each other. Saturn being in a harmonious elemental relationship to both the sun and the moon, also to both Jupiter and to Pluto. So Saturn's kind of acting as this mediator, or this salve to this otherwise very tense opposition. And what is Saturn? Now, when I talked about those that are isolated, those that are forgotten and left out, Saturn rules over reality, like true 3D tangible realness. And he also was cast out. Saturn once ruled the heavens and the earth and all of the lands. He ruled the universe. And in an effort to maintain his rulership, he consumed all of his children, therefore having this time where things were left unchanged. It's why we associate Saturn with time, right? His legacy went long and far and was actually quite peaceful, to be honest. But in the effort to preserve his own control, he consumed his children. And then one day, Zeus, who'd been hidden away, here's Jupiter over here, he actually rose up and fought his father, Saturn, and won and cast Saturn out. And so Saturn is the archetype of that isolation, of the end of things as well, being cast away. And I think that this is where his rulership comes so beautifully into that of Aquarius, because Aquarius is looking on the outskirts. It's saying, let's find the furthest boundary. Who are the people that are stretching the farthest? Because that's the gift of Aquarius, is it can look really outside of the box. It can really stretch the mind, because it's saying, what is the furthest boundary of what is possible, and who is waiting out there? What ideas lie out there where the sun doesn't touch, right? Where the dark areas are. Aquarius can seek far and wide to find those solutions and those ideas and inspirations that otherwise would not have been visible. They're here to bring them into the fold as well, and to unite them in collective unity and collective community. This is why Aquarius is tied to collective consciousness, because it extends the furthest reaches of Saturn's boundaries. And it is also why Aquarius is opposing Leo, because Leo is that individual in the spotlight in the center who is shining, and Aquarius is everybody else. So what's interesting about this particular full moon, right, is we're dealing with both luminaries here, the luminaries being the sun and the moon, which are very much around the individual self. They're in this relationship, this interrogation, in a sign that is ruled by Saturn, which is the opposite of a luminary. So we're really dealing with that individual placement of sun, moon together in shared expression of where do we find our individual identity? How do we move throughout the world in accordance with what our soul desires? How do we keep ourselves feeling secure and safe and nurtured? And how do we express ourselves? All of that energy is in this opposition, this interrogation with Saturn, which says, all things will end. Your life will be over someday. Think about something outside of you that's larger, that requires hard work and potentially sacrifice of what you desire or what you need or what you want. That might make you feel kind of isolated, but also put you deeply in touch with all those other energies around you that are experiencing that same sense of time, of existence, because Saturn reminds us that yes, while all things end, good things require hard work, right? In order to earn, in order to amass and build wisdom and experience that leads to that wisdom. Saturn is about the long-term goal, and at Aquarius, his focus is forward. So he says, think outside of the self for the greater benefit of who? Everyone else, the community. Right? Think about the people that you could serve. Think about the people that could benefit from you setting aside your wants and desires in order to be of service to something greater that first and foremost lasts. Saturn is interested in work that builds and lasts a long time. Here's where it gets interesting, right? Because it's not that simple, and that's not super simple either. Saturn being in Aries is in its fall. This means that Saturn has a hard time in Aries. Why? Because Aries wants it now. But as we just discussed, Saturn is about longevity, lasting, enduring. And in Aries, he's in a bit of a bind, because now suddenly that thing that was comfortable looking a far ways off to earn and work for is something that he wants immediately. So we're actually all collectively, while Saturn is transiting through Aries, we're all experiencing this lesson around how much time do we take? Do we do it now? Do we get over the obstacles that we keep putting in front of ourselves, saying, I can't, or I'll never be, or I'm not capable? Or are we rushing things, trying to make stuff manifest immediately when we haven't put the time and the effort in? That is a whole lesson of Saturn being in Aries that we are experiencing over the next year and a half. And so if that's something you'd be interested in me diving into more, I would love to. Just let me know in the comments. But Saturn being the ruler of this, we can see now there's quite a lot of this. I almost want to say it's like a trick mirror where it's looking at ourselves, right, in this mirror and trying to get outside of our individual identity into the collective. But our rulership here is kind of confused on whether we're looking really, really long term or the immediate. You're going to see a lot online, I think, that's going to say this full moon is so great. And part of that is because, yes, we do have Jupiter involved. Jupiter is that sense of growth and optimism and joy, even jubilance, abundance. Those are all Jupiterian qualities. But we cannot forget that he's opposing Pluto. Pluto, who is in charge of exposing what is beneath the surface and uncovering. And when we see that, when we're forced to face those things that we've hidden away from ourselves, we transform. Is it an easy process? Absolutely not. I heard this quote on recently. It was so brilliant. And I wish I knew who I could attribute to. So if you know, put it in the comments for me. But it is, this truth doesn't always set you free right away. Sometimes it sets you on fire first. And I really, truly feel like that is what this Pluto and Jupiter might feel like. This Jupiter in Leo wanting to be its authentic, real self, stand in the joy of its identity, give life to itself and say, I'm going to bravely show up. I want the thing now. I don't want to wait any longer. I'm tired of putting those obstacles in my way. You can hear the flavors of Saturn and Aries here too, right? I'm tired of saying that that's not for me, or that's not accessible for me, that I'm not deserving of that thing, that mission is too great or too big. No, I want it now. And Jupiter says, yes. Jupiter is a yes planet. He says, yes, step into that identity, grow into that, feel yourself in that space, ascend to that level. And Pluto over here says, okay, if you're going to do that, guess what the collective is going to illuminate? The parts of you that feel like the outsider, the parts of you that feel too weird, too much, the parts of you that might that might feel really fearful of being cast away, of being isolated and being iced out from people that you thought you loved or that loved you, where you were actually performing for them. And when you take off that performance mask and live in that authenticity, that heart-centered place of Leo, that Jupiter is encouraging you, yes, you can do that. The moon feels awfully insecure in Aquarius, where it might be cast away, where it might be isolated. For all my witches out there who are listening, right? This is something that I think karmically we understand and know deeply in our bones. And that goes for any outcast, any group or culture or collective or people who have felt cast away, whether through colonialism or, dictatorship or prejudice, right? Like with this Leo performance comes the pride, but it also comes that, well, you are not me. You are not accepted. You are not, like, not everybody can have the spotlight. And Aquarius says, damn the spotlight. Why do we need that one isolated individual to be bathed in all the glory when all of us are standing around this person supporting them and not seen? I want to just highlight something. On July 26th, we had Saturn entering its retrograde in Aries, really teaching us to embody in a tangible, real way this lesson around that Aries. How much time do we put in? How much are we putting in front of ourselves to create an obstacle toward getting toward the mission and the goal? And how much are we rushing toward it, needing it to happen immediately for us, needing to see the rewards of our efforts immediately? And where do we actually need to stop and wait and recognize it has to take discipline and time? This happened on July 26th. And as well as Saturn going into retrograde, we also had the nodal axis shifting into Leo and Aquarius. So this axis, folks, we are not done with this after this full moon and after the next Leo new moon, which we're going to have, which is going to be a solar eclipse. The eclipses now move into this Leo and Aquarius axis. So we are learning the lessons of this full moon kickoff moment for the next couple of years. We're going to have this until March of 2028. I believe that this full moon is that first illumination, right? We have the sun illuminating in its full light and glory the moon, and all of these outcasts, all of these people who have supported those in power, supported those leaders. If those leaders are not also sharing the wealth, sharing the recognition of those groups, of those people that have built them up, that is where we see a true collective force of we have to tear down this ruler. They are no longer going to be in the spotlight. They're no longer going to be somebody we respect. It's a power returning to the people. We've already had this starting with Pluto. And I think I don't even have to get into the politics or the world events to emphasize where we're seeing that. But I think what I wanted to emphasize with this full moon, right, is while I am in full support of people living their authentic selves and being truthful and honest about that, what they are here to shine at and what they are here to express, right? That individual spirit and fire inside of us. I believe whatever we can do to champion that, be a cheerleader. That's the high side of Leo. I get to shine and you get to shine too. I am the center of the universe and you are the center of the universe too, right? That is what Leo's energy is meant to do in its high side, not hog all the light for itself. But as we step into that authentic sharing of ourselves, there is a very real fear that we will be cast away, that we will be ignored, that we will no longer survive as part of the tribe because it's too different. It's too weird. It looks too far in the future. Jupiter can even create that as well, that magnifying sense of like being too much to hold. And so if you're somebody who right now who's considering seriously stepping into that fully expressed identity, but you have these fears that you're carrying around, will it be too much? Will it be too different from people? What I want to say is that you are likely going to have to face the really hard parts of that. That is what Pluto is here to also uncover for us. We have to find that sense of, I'm going to shine in accordance with myself, and it's going to be enough to sustain me, to nurture myself. That even if I am alone, that living in accordance, this honest accordance with my soul's purpose and mission is enough for me. And what I want to say is with the North Node coming into Aquarius, it is very likely that those who are ostracized, outcast, isolated away, become celebrated, become listened to. But it takes you overcoming that fear to stand out, which in history has been dangerous. We hold these karmic lessons because being separate from the tribe, being pointed at as the weird one, was deadly. It was lethal. So I don't want to minimize this fear, this obstacle. And you're probably going to learn this lesson in a manner of experimentation, very Aquarius, of stepping into, okay, like if I'm actually going to do this, why don't you just take one step? What's one thing you can do? It's not a full body changeover, not transformation. Let's remember that Pluto's transformations take years, in some cases decades to see. And we'll know because Pluto's going to spend 20 whole years in Aquarius. You're not meant to get this right tomorrow. You may not necessarily find your tribe. You might have to go through a whole period of total isolation before you, in your solid, authentic self, through that discipline of sharing yourself time and time again and showing up for you in order to speak that message, really find those people that you believe might be out there who can understand you and listen to you. But it can't be about you finding your people. It needs to come from a place of, I'm living in accordance with my soul because I have something to share and I'm doing it for the long haul. I'm trying to help. I'm serving something greater than myself, right? It's not about just being you, because if it was just about being you, it's going to fall flat. It's going to be performative. Can we find some way of expressing that feels more connected with a universal truth, with something that we believe in our hearts to be true because we see it in our experience. We see humanity going through this. And I think what's so interesting is as we step into this radical self-honesty and expression, what we're going to realize with this North Node in Aquarius is that everyone on some level is feeling this same thing, is feeling the same emotion, this same tension, the same story around ourselves, that we all feel isolated, like we're the only ones who think the way we do, that will never be understood. That is a universal quality of being a human. And that is what the North Node in Aquarius with this full moon is here to illuminate. That whatever insecurities you might be holding, whatever challenges are in your way, you are not the only one with those challenges. Yes, you have your own experience, you have your own wisdom, you have your own context to your life, you have your own gifts, and those are meant to be celebrated, right? That is that South Node in Leo, saying, let's return to what makes you truly you. What are those gifts? What are those pieces of yourself that deserve to be shared and seen and recognized? But how are they contributing to something bigger than just you? To something that will last in the future, that will help humanity and humankind and those that are forgotten and unseen. And by you going through this process of radical self-expression and honesty, going through that Pluto dark night of the soul of, I am isolated now. I am on my own. Those people that I perform for are no longer in my life. I have shed them. Very Pluto word, shedding those relationships because I'm now acting in accordance with my mission and my goal. Can you find your way through those dark moments alone? Maybe this full moon might be eliminating some of that fear for you or some of that promise potential of what lies on the other side of that time in the desert, of that time isolated and alone. We have to go through those periods where we recalibrate ourselves to say, okay, it's really just me. But it's not really just me because everybody else is going through their just me too. So where can we come together? Where can we recognize that there is in fact unity? And instead of coming from this place of performative trying to fit in or conditioning that I was told I had to be these things or this is my identity, can we shed that conditioning and step into a realization that we are all living this human unifying collective experience and that is what those bonds can be created from, that is what that true collective power can come from. Now, I'd be so curious if you're watching, if you want to share your story of maybe how these themes are coming up for you. Maybe it's in your career, maybe it's in your relationship with your parents or your family. Maybe it's in relationship to your health, right? Things that you've been conditioned to believe about yourself that are no longer holding water and you're going to have to go at something alone. You know, maybe it means having to say no to groups of friends or people because you cannot participate in those activities any longer. These are the kinds of themes we're talking about. As much as, yes, an Aquarius moon is about community, there's a key piece with Aquarius related to Saturn that is also about feeling different from everybody and feeling isolated. No matter what you read online, and if it inspires you, that's fabulous. Oh my gosh. But whatever you read online, remember that some of this lesson is around feeling alone. And in a way, Leo feels alone too. Leo stands in a spotlight, visible and vulnerable. It takes that courage of a lion to stand up and lead. That's not somebody who has a gaggle of friends around them necessarily. In some ways, that protection that Aquarius offers of, yes, I'm individual, but I'm part of a group network feels safer. So all of these questions and fears around, am I myself and alone? Or am I part of a group and am I sacrificing something? Or is this group, this tribe, this collective, this people actually in accordance with me, with who I really am beyond the conditioning? And can we accept our differences as well as our similarities? Because remember, Aquarius says it doesn't matter how weird, how unique, how strange, how different, how outside of my culture or outside of my frame of reference you are accepted too. Ooh, these are some good themes coming out of this. Something I just want to mention just to wrap all this up. All of this energy is standing in a beautiful, harmonious trine by air and sextile by air fire to Uranus and Gemini. Modern astrologers, many evolutionary and modern astrologers believe that Uranus is the ruler, the secondary ruler of Aquarius. And while I personally use the traditional ruler of Saturn, I think Uranus's influence here is absolutely profound in that Uranus is showing us the polarity. I am me and you are different, or this is different. This is not me. And Gemini exposes polarity. And when Uranus enters Gemini, it says, let's expose the polarity, but recognize that both can be occurring at once. Both things can be true. And so do we meet in the middle? Do we recognize the spectrum? Do we find a way to learn from communicating with one another, from sharing with one another? Gemini is the twins. They come together as siblings. They learn from each other. They recognize each other's differences, right? Have you ever met twins that are exactly the same? I haven't. If you have, I'd be curious. Siblings also, just in general, being so different from each other, yet coming from the same cloth, right? The same family. So Uranus and Gemini is here to expose the polarity, but then ask the radical question of how can both be true at once? And so can we be standing in that individual spotlight where we are shining our most authentic, real selves, maybe doing so radically that it's shocking for others? There might be a shocking element to this. In fact, I would be shocked if there wasn't. Uranus says, can we stand in that radical sense of who we are, bravely, courageously, while also remembering that everybody is also the center of the universe. Everybody is also in a spotlight and everybody is feeling what you are feeling. Your authentic story is not individual to just you. We're all living our individual stories. So where can we learn from each other? Where can we bridge that in the collective? Recognizing the power within the experience of you and I are not so different. it should be a little shocking. It should be a little Uranian and outside the box. And I love that this is emphasizing this in air. So we are talking about it. We are coming up with ideas, with inspiration. We are sharing that. That is that air energy at work. And that is acting in a harmonious frequency to what's going on. So isolating yourself right now, staying squirreled away in your own cave, may not be the most beneficial thing for you. Who could you share some of this process with? How could you communicate some of this? Even if it's just you talking to a camera or writing down in a journal. Don't keep it all bottled up inside of you. It deserves to be shared. Ask those questions that feel a little scary. Dare to try to be authentic in a way that's beyond your comfort zone and might just shock everybody around you, let alone yourself. Try it on. Gemini, and I think I've said this before, but I can't help it. Gemini wants to play. Gemini is like a toddler little scientist. And so can we make it not so, like Saturn has a habit of making everything so serious. And with Saturn's rulership, it's going to be hard not to. But can we use this Gemini to soften some of this and realize we have one life? Let's just try it on. Try on the silly hat. Try on the Instagram post. Try on the being like absolutely fanatic about your health in a situation because hell, like if you don't do it, nobody else is going to be that champion for you. So do it. If you can risk the isolation, then be a bit radical about how honest you are and dare to be surprised because you might just find that people find that really inspiring. All right, I hope you enjoyed this forecast for the Aquarius full moon. I just want to invite you, if you're interested, I do share a full moon spell every full moon with my newsletter subscribers, and it's totally free. So if you're interested, I have that link down in the description box. So as I am a priestess and a witch, I love to share what spell I'm working on for the full moon based on the forecast that I give. And so if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll get that in your inbox right away and also every month with the full moon. I will see you all next month for the lunar eclipse in Pisces, and we'll be doing a forecast that is live, and then any of my newsletter subscribers have the chance to get a mini reading with me as well. And I will also see you for the solar eclipse we're having in Leo in just 2 weeks. We have entered eclipse season, folks, and so I will be doing a forecast on this channel for the solar eclipse in Leo as well. May you manifest a life of divine purpose and glory, for you are worthy of that mission, of that life, and never forget that you are free. Blessed be.